folks. Welcome back to another episode of the Field and Garden Podcast. I'm your host and your friend, Lisa Mason Ziegler, and thank you so much for joining me here. And I am really excited to talk about this today because, so I'm recording this in January, and this is 2022. And of course, we've already been through 2 years of pandemic craziness, staying at home, not staying at home, going back and forth. And now more than ever, we have more people investigating, trying out, starting, or reinvigorating their gardens, containers, farming. It's a really exciting time to be in the growing industry, regardless of which area you're growing in. And what this leads to is that I am overwhelmed most often with questions from folks through social media, direct messaging. Our office inbox gets flooded. And I was looking actually for something in my book, Vegetables Love Flowers, this morning. I was thinking, didn't I write about that? Something somebody asked me so that I could reference it for them. And that got me to reading. And y'all, isn't it just funny that I wrote this book? 2018 is when it was published. I think that's the year. Anyway. But it's so crazy to me that when I do so much content, so many live events, all those live Facebook lives, Instagram lives, YouTube lives now. It is hard to remember what is where, as you might be able to imagine, because I know that you guys have trouble keeping up too, because we get questions all the time. Where was that Lisa said? Anyway, that got me to rooting around in my book this morning, Vegetables Love Flowers. And what people don't understand, and I totally get it based on the title of the book, right? This book is really about a 3-season cutting garden and the way that I garden and manage a garden and my farm. And it's really about how flowers benefit vegetables. And that's not what I want to talk to you about today. I'm talking to you today about why do people grow flowers? Why flowers? And so I want to first say that we all grow flowers, perhaps in the beginning, for really different reasons, whether it's, you want it in your front yard of your home, for the landscape, for people driving by, or, you want to attract butterflies. I'm talking about basically the surface reasons that we grow flowers. That first inkling of, I want that in my yard and garden, because I want what they have. And so attracting butterflies is a really big reason that people want to grow flowers. Then, of course, there's growing cut flowers. Oftentimes, most people get introduced to flowers and then venture to cut flowers once they realize that, oh my gosh, you can grow a small patch, cut it, and tend it like a cutting garden and have an enormous amount of flowers every week from just a very small speck of garden space, right? But so we all start at different places. So that led me to want to read to you from page 33 in Vegetables Love Flowers. It's like an introduction to a new section of the book, and it's called The Big Picture. And when I read this, I thought, this really gives a great overview, I think, or a look into this book. So the title of this one page is The Big Picture. The big picture, by the way, is what I think most people miss. We're so into instant gratification, right? That we just can't wait. Rabbit hole already, y'all. When I was growing up, our dad was a big believer in waiting. It was oftentimes, if you asked for a significant something, what I'm going to think of is a cat. We did have a small dog when I was growing up, but we weren't really big pet people. We always had a dog or a cat. They were, part of our family. But we had a dog all of our life, and we had never had a cat. And I wanted a cat. We had gone and visited a cousin in Maryland. They had cats, and we just fell in love. So, I already knew how to work my dad, about the right time to ask him, because this was a big deal, right? So I asked him, could we get a cat? And his reply was, as I expected it would be, with a lot of other stuff added in, was, we'll come back in 30 days and ask me again. And if you still want it as bad then as you do right now, then we'll do it, And so I think I'm a little bit more conditioned to realize that good things come to those that wait. And I can still remember coming home from school. I think I was in middle school, maybe more like 6th or 7th grade. I can remember coming home from school, and taped on my bedroom door was a little picture of a cat with yes written on it. And it had been over the 30 days, and I was still talking about it all the time and talking about how I was going to take care of it. And anyway, so waiting is the big picture, is what many of us aren't very focused on anymore. It's all about instantaneous, right? So let me just read you from this page 33, the big picture. The truth is that setting up the garden to help take care of itself is rooted in flowers. But it takes more than just that. It is more than a single step that brings this all to life. It is a combination of steps that encourage and help nature along. Many gardeners have tried to grow organically, but have faced mixed results with frustration and often will fall back on old ways. Let me be clear on this. Using pesticides, organic or otherwise, can harm beneficial insects and undermine the very workers that flowers have attracted to the garden. While I go deeper in Chapter 8 on alternative ways to handle and avoid pest outbreaks, here are some reminders. To get your garden on its way to solving its own pest issues, you must give it time to work. Season after season of pesticide-free gardening will result in a large community of naturally occurring beneficial insects. Natural pest controls are more of a marathon than a sprint. If you find aphids in the garden, give the beneficials a chance to find them. They will come, eat, mate, and lay eggs, but you must give them time. After following natural gardening practices, you'll find the beneficial community becoming more mature and widespread. Major pest outbreaks will become a thing of the past, as the beneficials are always present and find the pests before they get out of hand. Problems will often be resolved without your knowing that there was ever a problem. There is so much good that starts to happen in the garden when you go all natural and add flowers. It helps the garden spark even more joy, and it spreads the joy by the way of beautiful flowers. It is the cutting in the cutting garden that keeps the flowers producing. The flowers then attract the good things we want and need in the garden. Behind the scenes of those flowers, a world unfolds that few are aware of. It is fascinating, beneficial, and useful, just the way a garden was meant to be. As a commercial farmer, I make regular harvesting a way of life. The secret to abundance in the flower garden, the vegetable garden, and the herb garden is the same. Harvest often, and you will be rewarded. Read on for more good reasons to restore the natural order of your garden and bring nature in to do the heavy lifting on insect control and more. It doesn't stop there. Friends, that kind of just wraps it all up in a package. We all grow flowers for a different reason, but flowers do so much. They're at the root of all goodness in a garden. And so I do want to, so I often get, well, like, what are you talking about? What are the other, how can flowers really help us? You know, sometimes some people are a really hard sell. If the person doesn't want cut flowers and they don't want beautiful flowers in their yard, they're the ones that really have to have the facts pointed out to them. So let's just say you're a vegetable gardener, right? Planting vegetables into their favored conditions and at the right time leads to stronger, more productive plants with fewer pest issues. Just planting your vegetable garden into better conditions, which is what we talk about in here, allows flowers to even ramp up what they provide to these vegetables. Flowers, planting the flowers in your garden is a strong dose of flowers. Medicine is the way that I actually look at it, right? Having flowers in the garden from very early spring right up to frost attracts and keeps nature's workers right where we need them and want them, y'all, right in the garden. The other part of, the rest of the story, the next steps to gardening, whether you're vegetable gardening, herb gardening, or flower garden, is the soil. Y'all, what your plants have their roots sunk in is the story of your gardening life, and how easy it is. Taking care of our soil on a regular basis will build and sustain a healthier garden, and it gets better with each passing season, right? And then if we're planting healthy starts in our garden, that is just a whole conversation in itself. People that are starting seeds at home without just a couple of pieces of equipment. When I say grow light and heat mat, people are like, oh man, I don't want to get that involved. I don't want to invest that heavily. But let me tell you something. Getting your seeds off to a great start, meaning warming their soil up, the little, whatever you're starting seeds in, we soil block, which for us has been the easiest way to success. When we use a seedling heat mat and then drop them under a grow light for 2 to 3 weeks after that before we plant them out, gives us healthier starts, because starting with healthier plants has a major impact on the way that your garden grows, the way they resist disease and pests. And then, y'all, you're laying the groundwork for the way that your garden needs attention for the whole growing season. Spending a little bit of time setting up your garden saves you a whole season of chores, right? And then, the rest of the story on bringing in, butterflies are the poster child because they're so obvious, right? We can see them. To really you don't want to invite these guys in. This is the way I like to explain this. If I invited you to come to my home for a week and spend a week with me, and you said, great, I would love to come, right? And you show up on Sunday, and then on Monday night, when it comes time to dinner time, I don't offer you a meal. I fed you on Sunday night and maybe Monday morning, but then I don't offer you any more food or water or drink. How long would you hang around? You wouldn't stay here very long if there was no more consumption, right? Well, that's exactly what happens in our gardens. People will plant a little something, invite all this good stuff in, but they don't provide the rest of the story. And what's the rest of the story? Providing habitat. Whether we're talking about water, a place where they can lay their babies and raise their babies and hide and protect their babies. Habitat is what it takes to really build the community. And then, learning about that there are what I call the movers and the shakers in the garden. What is that? Is learning how to make, keep, and maintain compost and leaf mold, to have it on hand all of the time. You make it a part of your garden experience. Y'all, I talk about all that in this book, but I really want to say that this book is about why you should, why you will want to have flowers in your garden, and better yet, what that will bring to your garden. Vegetables Love Flowers is really about a gardening lifestyle. And if you're farming, everything I say in Vegetables Love Flowers is based on my farming life. And I do just want to take a moment to say, another amazing resource. If you are a commercial grower, if you're selling at farmers markets or CSAs, or you have a farm stand, or you're thinking about a pick your own, or selling to florists, or even wholesaling, or if you just want to grow like one, I cannot highly recommend enough a subscription to Growing for Market magazine. That is the magazine written by people just like me that are in the trenches, doing it every day, sharing the nitty-gritty details of growing, marketing, and the business of farming. And just like what I share with gardeners is applicable to farmers, it's vice versa for Growing for Market. If that's something that just sparks your interest, I can't recommend it enough. And we partner with them. And I don't do much partnering because I really, we're all about the bare basics that people need to be successful. And I truly attribute the lion's share of my success from going from a gardener to a farmer to this publication. It's really seeded the way for me over these last 2 decades because the magazine is over 31 years old. And did you know that this magazine was founded and run by our very own Lynn Bazinski, the lady behind the book that started most of us in flower farming, the Flower Farmer book. And she was a journalist and a writer that became a flower farmer. And that led her to start this magazine back in 1992 to really connect growers, like connecting growers to growers and bringing the best of those best ideas. There is dedicated flower content in every magazine. There is a decade's worth of back issues. That means that you can go in there and search the archived articles when you're a subscriber to find articles written by our very own Gretel Adams of Sunny Meadows Flower Farm, Pamela and Frank Arnowski, the rock stars of the flower farming world, right? Along with Aaron Benzenkane, as well as Jonathan and Megan Lease. Y'all, they're all available, searchable on the website. The magazine puts out 10 issues a year, and it's available on paper, digitally, or you can get both of those. You're guaranteed to find something to fine-tune what you're doing in Growing for Market. And guess what? They've given us a special offer. So you can use the coupon code of workshop. That's WORKSHOP, so that you can get 25% off of any subscription to this original Farmer to Farmer magazine. And you'll find all of that and more at growingformarket.com. I say that because we're all kind of, the articles that you'll find in that magazine follow right along with the methods that I follow. Because y'all, I'm grounded from that magazine, right? So friends, why flowers? We can all reap the surface benefits of flowers, but it is so much deeper than that. And this book that I created, Vegetables Love Flowers, that I'm just sitting here holding in my hand looking at, really, we targeted this book to help vegetable growers to understand that including flowers in their vegetable patch is a key element to being able to grow. When I say organically to me is deeper than just, it's not just not using pesticides, organic or otherwise. It's a lifestyle for us. Everything we do is based on how does that enhance our gardening experience? Because y'all, the bottom line is paying attention to some of these steps in setting up and starting and maintaining our garden. It just makes gardening and farming easier. Perhaps one of the most common questions that I get, for anyone that is new to us, I'm in the middle of the city. I'm in southeastern Virginia. I'm surrounded by 200,000 residents. And while that brings a lot of lemons, we have found how to make lemonade out of it. But one of the things that is super key to my farming operation is that you have to assume that not everybody living around you thinks what farming is cool and neat. You do because you're listening to this podcast, but there's a whole world of people out there that have no idea what's going on over here. They see if I start maybe if I wake them up on a Saturday morning with an engine noise or something. So I'm always trying to make my farm an asset to my neighborhood is what I'm getting at. And we follow a lot of practices to assume that I have a stinker living around me. There's a stinker in every bunch, y'all, and it only takes one stinker in a bushel to ruin the rest of it. For somebody to complain to the city about me, as I am the last commercial farmer in the city, they don't really know what to do with me. So you don't have to be doing anything wrong to get a big old problem festering, right? So that has led me to be a very neat farmer, at least on the outer edges, to keep everybody happy. And, you shouldn't have to do that. I personally feel like I should, but other people are like, well, you shouldn't have to do that. Well, sure I do. I want to be a good neighbor. But one of the things that I am kind of known for is this neat farm, right? Well, I'm telling you, folks, neatness is just following a couple of ideas when I set up my garden and my farm and the borders of my property. And those are the things that I talk about in Vegetables Love Flowers. They are so simple because we do not have time to focus on keeping stuff neat or even for weeds. So what do? We prevent weeds from happening as best we can. We still have, outbreaks of weeds in certain areas. And it's like it's a constant evolving learning. It's like in the middle of summer where there's a problem area, I'm constantly saying to myself, holy cow, I am not letting that happen next year. But next year there'll be a different problem. And that's the way it is, y'all. Gardening and farming is a constant evolution of it's growing and happening, new challenges and problems and rewards and gifts every single day. And Vegetables Love Flowers is really the way that I do all of that. It is my lifestyle of gardening and farming. And of course, I do deeper dives on 100 topics that are in Vegetables Love Flowers. You know what I mean? It's like succession planting, my go-to warm season, my go-to cool season flowers, how I started in farming and how I went from a novice gardener to a farmer, how we've planted a native border around our farm to be home base, to all these creatures that are the foundation of my organic gardening and farming. I mean, I can remember the terror I felt when the farm next to me, the last biggest farm The only big farm left in our city was my neighbor. When it was developed during the times that I was writing Vegetables Love Flowers, or actually a couple years before it, the fear that I faced forced me to deep dive on what I share in Vegetables Love Flowers so that I could keep my eyes on my side of the fence to do what I could in my little spot of the world, and I became keenly aware that everything that allowed me to grow flowers on a large basis or a small basis without any pesticide intervention to become, I don't want to use the word famous because I am far from famous, but I was well known in southeastern Virginia for growing perfect, high quality blooms and doing it without pesticides. And I 100% grow outdoors in a garden, in a field, no hoop and greenhouses. It's an accomplishment, y'all. And guess what? It is all rooted in the flowers themselves. So why flowers? They're to restore us. They're to beautify our yards and farms, to grow a business. We all have different reasons to grow flowers. But in the end, for me, a big part of it is also that it restores my soul. This whole lifestyle of gardening and farming. And little do many people know that the more flowers you grow, the easier it is when you just follow a few practices. And that's what Vegetables Love Flowers is all about. It says companion planting for beauty and bounty on the front. And what most people instantly assume is companion planting is not just grow this flower with this plant to prevent this problem. It is much bigger than that, y'all. It is so much bigger than that. Those are people that are trying to solve a very small, targeted problem. My theory is that I want to create this utopia here on my little farm in the middle of this big, big, bustling city that has people doing things right outside of my yard that I know are detrimental to the creatures, from the birds that go in and out of my yard down to the microorganisms that are in the soil. And so I'm doing my part by doing what I can on my property, and I invite you to do the same. And how I do it is in Vegetables Love Flowers. So friends, that's it in a wrap. And I would love to personalize a book to you. You can find Vegetables Love Flowers, as well as my other book, Cool Flowers, and all the seeds, tools, and supplies, as well as our online courses over on our website, thegardenersworkshop.com. What is my niche? My niche is that we just sell and offer what I use, and then how we do it is everything that you will find over there. As well as we seed start using soil blocking. We have tons of help in that department. And friends, I just invite you to go over there and check out all the ways that you can connect with me each week are there. And, why flowers? Flowers definitely have changed the path of my life. And I know that they're doing it for so many people. Because let me share something with you. If you've never gifted another person with a little handful of flowers from your garden, we love giving gifts, right? I mean, the giver is the one that gets the most blessing. Well, you just can't imagine the depth of that blessing when that person receives something that you grew and tended and cared for in your garden. It is the depth of that gift is super amazing. So friends, till we meet again, ciao.